Well then, it wasn't very long ago that I did one of these videos talking about Nottingham Forest appointing a new manager. But here we are again. Sean Dyche is officially the new Nottingham Forest manager. Something I did not see coming at the start of the season. I think at the start of the season, if you said that we would be with Sean Dyche come October and we had 39 days with Ange Postecoglou, I don't think anybody, even by Forest standards, would have thought that would have happened. But it has. You know, we've outdone ourselves here. Let's look at the positives and negatives of this, because there's definitely both. I think this is an appointment that I can get behind a lot more than I did with Ange. I think he'll bring stability. He knows the club already. Okay, he's not a legend of the club. He's not managed us before, obviously. But he is well known for having connections to Nottingham Forest. He lives in the local area. He's come to many games before. I think that's got to help. Just the fact that he has that connection straight away. More than Ange ever did. Ange never had that connection. And I know, okay, he only had 39 days in charge, but he never even looked like he wanted to have that connection. So Dyche, before he's even managed a game or done a press conference, has more of a connection than Ange Postecoglou ever did. Dyche isn't an ego like Ange either. He's a very well-respected coach. Even if he is maybe seen as a old school manager, maybe he's outdated, people say that about him, some are going to say it lacks ambition and it's a panic sort of signing. Well, ultimately, I think whoever you appoint at this stage is a bit of a panic signing. Unless we waited and, looked for a couple of weeks, long and hard, even then you're having to scramble around mid-season to find a manager. The fact that we're even in this situation, looking for a manager at this stage of the season for the second time, on our third manager, it's the 21st of October and the season started in August. This is unprecedented. Forest wouldn't have expected this. Nobody would have expected it. So we've got to get it right. And this is why this appointment is so critical. This is why it's going to be criticised so much if it doesn't work. Ange isn't necessarily a bad guy, but he went about everything in the wrong way and was just only focused on himself and what he previously achieved at other clubs and never felt like he actually had that connection to Forest or even wanted to. Dyche immediately is more likeable and he's more proven at this level. And that's just fact, because he's managed pretty much exclusively in the Premier League. Okay, yeah, he's had a couple of seasons in the Championship with Burnley, but he got them promoted both times, I believe, and then kept them there for 6 straight seasons with an extremely limited budget. And ultimately, only talking from an outsider's point of view here, the only reason why it really failed in the end at Burnley towards the end in his final season is because Burnley didn't invest. Burnley were well known for not really buying. They had the same squad year after year in the Premier League. Chris Wood, I mean, that's a big talking point. He's going to be working with Chris Wood again. I think he scored 44 goals under Sean Dyche in 150 or something games. I'm not wrong there. But that's a pretty good record. Very good record, in fact. So I think the fact that he, with a very limited squad at Burnley, even if he didn't play Europa League proper, got them into Europe. With the squad that Burnley had, they had no right to be as high as that. And yeah, besides that, they were quite low in the Premier League. They came 10th as well, but they were solid. They didn't play, everyone knows what Burnley were like. They played, really old school football, nothing too exciting. It was safe, but it worked enough for them to be a stable Premier League side and even punch above their weight a couple of times. And the reason why I'm saying this is because Burnley, he had no budget really behind him at all. There was no real ambition other than just to be in the Premier League. And it was just a miracle really that they did any better than that. With Forest, he's going to be managing in Europe for real. He's never managed in Europe before. He's got a load of money behind him. He's never had so much money at his disposal. Dyche, maybe having those tools at his disposal, could not only propel us out of this mess that we've got ourselves into and make us defensively solid again, doing the basics right, the connection to the club being huge, having 2 Forest legends working with him in Ian Woan and Steve Stone. I think that has to help, having that connection. And I know Stuart Pearce didn't work as manager, Dougie Freedman as well. It's not necessarily going to work, but I think you can immediately kind of be connected to who's managing your club. I think him having money and having the talent that he's now got available, more than he's ever had with Burnley or Everton, I think that has to be an exciting thing for him. And it's got to be something that can make you think, okay, well, if he can do that with a limited squad at Burnley and Everton, then what can he do when he's got a squad and he's competing in European football, like with our team? That's what makes you think, you know, is it just a case of he needed the tools to be able to really propel what he can do? Because we've only really seen Dyche at limited clubs. Everton had points deductions. In the same season that we had our points deduction as well, he was competing against us and they stayed in the Premier League pretty comfortably. They played some very solid football in that first season, even if it wasn't pretty. You know, they got the job done, they stayed up pretty well in the end. And then the second season, obviously, yeah, it didn't really work. You know, I think maybe it was a short-term fix at Everton. That's the concern with Forest, is how have we got to this? And I'm kind of going back on myself now, saying if Dyche has the tools, he can do well. But Dyche is well known for just being somebody that can kind of just be in relegation battles and maybe get mid-table. Is that really where Forest want to go? No, Forest want to be clearly competing in Europe and top 10 all the time. Even if that isn't realistic, that's our ambition. And some are going to say that this doesn't really fit where we want to go and it lacks ambition. And I can see totally why. Dyche, on record, hasn't had that ability to do that yet. He hasn't had that chance. This is his chance to prove that he can do it. If he can do it, it's a great appointment. But if he doesn't do it, and quite frankly, I don't think the Europa League performance really matters. I think at this stage, just get some wins under your belt. Premier League is what matters first things foremost. As much as I want us to go on a mad run in Europe and get to the quarterfinals, semi-finals, obviously the dream would be to win it, but I think that was always a massive ask, let's be honest. Maybe last season we could have done it with the football we were playing, but I think it's a big ask regardless of who the manager is. I'd love us to do that, you know, have a great time in the Europa League, and I'm not being a happy clapper, but the experience of being in it is incredible in itself. But the Premier League is what matters. We cannot lose our Premier League status, because then all of this is kind of erased. You kind of ruin all the work we've done over the last few years. So at an absolute bare minimum, we need to stay in the league. Only I don't think we'll be happy with even that. I think we have to, I think Marinakis is going to want us to be top 10 at a minimum. And luckily, we're only in October, so we can save ourselves. If we can get this right, 100% we could still get top 10 if we do really get something going. I don't think we should really be looking at it like that, you know, long term, yes. Do we need to be putting that pressure on ourselves right now? No. Obviously that's the dream to get back to that level, but is it realistic? Right now, I don't think it matters. We just need to focus on getting ourselves out of this mess, winning some games. I'm not completely sold on it. I can see why you'd say it lacks ambition. I could see why a lot of people will say, how have we got to this? But I think it's a case of needs must. And maybe, you know, it's kind of going back to a Nuno sort of approach, but different again, probably even more stubborn and turgid at times. But results are what matters first things foremost. You know, this whole business of we have to play attacking football, you know, quite frankly, I don't care about that. I just want Forest to win games. So that's what matters more than ever right now, is Forest win. And we haven't done that much at all for a good long while. So making sure we win games is the priority. I think Dyche, we've got a tough run of games coming up. I can't say, yeah, he's going to come in and win all these games. I think it's a tough game for whoever is going to be in charge these next few games. And I'm not like super confident that it's going to turn around. But I think we've got a better chance of it turning around with Dyche than we ever had with Ange Postecoglou. So, yeah. This is a critical moment that Forest have to get right. This has to work. You know, I'm not saying we have to get back into Europe straight away, otherwise it's a failure. That's just ridiculous if you think that. But we have to make sure but we can sort this out. We can sort this mess out. This is what matters right now. We've got ourselves into a mess, so avoidable, but here we are. We need to get out of it, and this is what matters more than anything. So yeah, what do you think of Sean Dyche, everybody? Get your thoughts in the comments. Porto on Thursday. Massive game, huge European night. What a way for Dyche and Steve Stone and Ian Wone as well to return to Forest, because yeah, that's so special for them and for us. So let's get behind everybody. Thanks for watching, everyone, and up the Reds.